In the National Parliament, we have 3 women members of Parliament. The Honourable Rufina, the Governor for Central Province, yourself, Madam Speaker, the member for North Bougainville, and myself. We have contributed to a 300% improvement in gender representation in political leadership by moving from 0 in the last Parliament to 3 in this Parliament. On average, men earn 13.7% more than women. The question is this acceptable or not? No, it's not. If women participated equally in the labor force market, average income of Papua New Guinea would be 20% higher over the long run.
Thank you, Madam Assistant Speaker. Let me, first of all, on behalf of the people of Central Province, of the women and girls of Papua New Guinea, and of the families of this country, congratulate you on your appointment as Assistant Speaker. It is indeed an historic moment, and the timeliness of it is actually very significant as well, as we are coming to celebrate or commemorate our 50th year of independence, to see a woman sitting and occupying the seat of a Speaker.
You have more gata all bratabli mission nan lo here, all your members of Parliament, all tok one them Iwara. To the Prime Minister of Papua New Guinea and to the Deputy Prime Minister, thank you for the first time you play. Come let me debate him good through. Let me tell him talk good through. Long heavy and all gata picking ni Mary, all gata mama, you will feel him inside.
Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're diving into a historic moment when our nation's only 3 female MPs made waves across the country and the Pacific. For the first time after 50 years of independence, a woman chaired Parliament as Speaker, joined by 2 other trailblazing female MPs delivering powerful speeches. If you love this content, like, subscribe, and drop a comment below. Let's jump right in.
Mama sit down. Lohan kais, blomi lohia. Thank you lo you plakam. Long namel blong Parliament. Thank you lo kam. All gata pikini lo han shoot blomi left side. Thank you lo you plakam lo kam witness this important session that the telang apinun. Me play got 3 Mary in Satlong Parliament, 11 Parliament of the state of Papua New Guinea. They me got this la look savel me ask him, Minister Blong Labor and Employment, Honourable Kessy Sawang, lo give him really talk blong telabno. Minister.
Thank you, Madam Assistant Speaker. I also want to join this debate, and I take note of the paper that has been presented by the chairman of the Permanent Parliamentary Committee on Gender Equality. And second, I want to acknowledge your elevation to be the Assistant Speaker of our Parliament. And on behalf of my people of Rai Coast, as well as the women and girls and the children of Papua New Guinea, we want to thank the government of Maraperosa for that honor of appointing a woman to sit in this chair in the term of our government. Madam Assistant Speaker, gender equality is not about women and only for women. Gender equality is everybody's business. Men have a critical role to play in achieving this goal. And on that note, I thank our Prime Minister for the strategies and work that he has given to various members of Parliament to undertake. And one of that was the Permanent Parliamentary Committee on Gender Equality, led by the provincial member for NCD, the governor for NCD. Madam Speaker, elevating the status of women and girls remains one of our most pressing development needs. Let me present some statistics around gender disparities in Papua New Guinea. As we are all aware, in the National Parliament, we have 3 women members of Parliament. The Honourable Rufina, the governor for Central Province, yourself, Madam Speaker, the member for North Bougainville, and myself. We have contributed to a 300% improvement in gender representation in political leadership by moving from 0 in the last Parliament to to 3 in this parliament. Should we feel proud as a nation? Yes, as well as absolutely no. Our people want their governing bodies to look like them, feel like them, and think like them. Girls and women make up just under half of our population at 47.9%. 3 seats occupied by women out of 118 available seats is a mere 2.5%. So girls and women comprise 47.9% of the population, but only have representation of 2.5% in parliament. Clearly, we have a lot more to do in this space. Madam Assistant Speaker, with respect to our male colleagues in this parliament, I make one simple observation. Without lived experiences as a girl or as a woman, it is very hard to understand the challenges that women and girls in Papua New Guinea face. This affects fair and just policy and decision-making when gender representation is skewed. Madam Speaker, let me share some labor market statistics. Women are slightly less likely to participate in labor force. In Papua New Guinea, 50.6% compared to men with 53.1%. We see considerably lower employment rates for women. From superannuation data, we see that around 25% of formal labor workforce are women. This is an extraordinary gap and one that should alarm all of us. We need to increase the labor participation rate for women in formal business and enterprising. A recent survey of workers in and informal jobs estimated a median or average wage of 763 kina per month. This survey estimates that the average gender earnings gap of 13.7%. In other words, on average, men earn 13.7% more than women. The question, is this acceptable or not? No, it's not. Further, Madam Assistant Speaker, a 2024 World Bank study finds that globally women have just under 2/3 of the legal rights of men, affecting their economic and social participation. The gender gap, however, for PNG is more stark, with women having 47.5% of the legal rights of men. After accounting for significant weaknesses in the implementation framework of our country, this score falls to 10%. Madam Assistant Speaker, why does this matter? Of course, we have a moral obligation to improve the lives and livelihoods of women, and that alone should be sufficient reason to act. But there are also considerable economic and social benefits. Recent analysis suggests that if women participated equally in the labor force market, average income of Papua New Guinea would be 20% higher over the long run. To put this into perspective, Madam Assistant Speaker, the real national income of Papua New Guinea is estimated to be 75.7 billion this year. That is 2025. I'm talking about the real national income. It should be 15 billion higher if we eliminated the gender gaps in the labor market. This is greater national prosperity, a higher standard of living, and better quality of life, not just for women and girls, but for all Papua New Guineans. Madam Assistant Speaker, as part of my ministerial priorities, I will be bringing to government a legislative program that will amend our labor laws to remove barriers and eliminate discrimination against women in the workplace and improve the world of work more generally. I look forward to the Constitutional Law Reform Commission report and recommendation on mandatory paid leave so I can lead the government's response to this. I also want to thank the Maraperoso government that this parliament in January 2023 ratified the International Labour Organization Convention on Violence and Elimination of Violence and Harassment at Workplace, which I deposited with the ILO, and it came into effect in September 2024. So when we amend the labor laws, it will also include the convention that requires us to have violence and harassment against women and girls at the workplace to be addressed. Madam Assistant Speaker, we must tackle gender discrimination in remuneration. I will also seek legislative amendments to ensure equal remuneration for men and women workers for work of equal value. I look forward to this Honourable House, Madam Assistant Speaker, to support when I come with the government's legislative amendments to improve outcomes for women in the world of work. Madam Assistant Speaker, I thank this Honourable House for listening.
Thank you. Honourable Governor, belong Central Province, Honourable Rufina Peter.
Thank you, Madam Assistant Speaker. Let me, first of all, on behalf of the people of Central Province, of the women and girls of Papua New Guinea and of the families of this country, congratulate you on your appointment as Assistant Speaker. It is indeed an historic moment, and the timeliness of it is actually very significant as well, as we are coming to celebrate or commemorate our 50th year of independence. To see a woman sitting and occupying the seat of a speaker is indeed an achievement. So I thank the Speaker of Parliament, the Prime Minister, and those responsible for making that a reality. I want to start by remembering all of the women and men who have lost their lives due to gender-based violence. I want to remember their families who may be still or who are still grieving the loss of their loved one that passed gender-based violence. I also want to state that traditional societies in Papua New Guinea, at least the one I came from, differed significantly from what we see now in terms of gender-based violence. There was order, and the traditional governance system was in control of its people. And the leadership in our traditional societies command the authority or demonstrate authority and command the respect of their people in governing their people. So that is an important realization or distinction I want to bring us as members, leaders on this floor to think about. I want to now acknowledge all of the governments, the previous prime ministers and governments who have been responsible for recognizing and doing something about preventing and responding to gender-based violence. Using the system of government in the year 2000, I acknowledge the government at the time that established the Family and Sexual Violence Committee, which was a sectoral committee of CIMC. I want to acknowledge all of those people that worked hard to put the first strategy in place. And there was another strategy after that, which then informed the current strategy that we're implementing. The governments, the development partners, the civil society organizations, development partners, faith-based organizations, male champions in that implementation of the strategy, I want to acknowledge them. I think many of them as implementers actually do not seem to rest well. They're called up at 1 a.m., 3 a.m., whatever hours of the day to attend to victims of gender-based violence. And they attend to them regardless of what time of the day or night it is, regardless of how busy they are. They go out and reach out to these victims. So for all of the work that they do and they have done and continue to do, I want to recognize them, thank them, and acknowledge them. In saying that, I want to recognize especially the male champions in our country who have assisted to implement those strategies as they were formulated. I want to thank the current government for that special parliamentary committee in 2021, and I want to congratulate those and acknowledge the achievements of those members of that committee. And of course, I want to thank the chairman of the current committee, the Permanent Parliamentary Committee, and the deputy and all of us members of that committee. And of course, the donors who support us and other technical people, including our own people that help us in looking at for strategies and that we can implement at all levels. In saying that, I also want to, bring to our attention in terms of empowerment of women. And I want to make mention of two members of parliament who, at that time, amidst very minority of members of parliament, expressed their need to do something to address the fact that we did not have many women on the floor of parliament by bringing two separate private members' bills to utilize section 102. The first in 1994 by the late Honourable John Neil Carey, and the second in 2003 by the Governor for Honourable, Honourable Luther Wenge. Both were unsuccessful at first reading, which reflects the ongoing political apathy about using any form of affirmative action in spite of the constitutional authority and duty of Parliament to do so. So Section 101 specifically states that we have two kinds of members, or we can have two kinds of members of Parliament, one elected and nominated by Section 101. So Section 102 states that the Parliament may appoint up to 3 members for which a 2/3 absolute majority vote is needed. And these are nominated members. So this Parliament has not been able to, successive parliaments have not been able to utilize that provision to ensure that there are more women in Parliament. So a lot have been said, very good points that have been made, including statistics by Honourable Kessy Sawang. Excellent statistics there for all of us to see the importance of women empowerment, whether it be in economic empowerment, political representation empowerment here on the floor is what I'm talking about, but in empowerment also in other areas of life. We know that the contribution just by their participation will improve our development outcomes. So without adding to all of the very good discussions and points for us to reflect on and take note of and take action in our respective capacities, also offer some actions that we need to also think about. The first thing I want to express here is the need for us as a government to address corruption, the issue of corruption. We cannot stand here and talk and pass laws and not follow those laws. As leaders, we must try to lead by example. So that means we should not be using our power, position of power, money to influence or divert any cause, any cases that have sufficient evidence to point perpetrators to imprisonment. Or if they are already convicted and sentenced, equally we should not use money, power to get people out of prison, of perpetrators that were convicted and sentenced to jail. Second, I started off by trying to compare with our traditional governance structures and systems, because a lot of things that are facing us now are also contributing to the kind of violence that we are looking at, including gender-based violence, and how those violent acts are committed. So it calls on us as leaders to look closely at the censorship of materials and what we allow into this country, and even taking tougher decisions like the ICT member, communication member had said about perhaps looking at banning Facebook. A lot of these things come because our children, our young people are looking at things that we don't even have control over, that influence how they think, that then translates into their attitude and behavior to see what we are. That's resulting in what we are seeing and what we are talking about today. The other suggestion, that also includes the issue of illicit drugs that are present in the country now, and how easily they have been moved around, and we don't seem to really have strong ways to address this. Because when people are intoxicated with drugs or under drugs, they can do the kinds of things that we are looking at and talking about. I also want us to look at, seriously looking at giving greater autonomy to provinces, because the implementation of this national strategy to prevent and respond to the GBV, I think, when provinces take greater autonomy in terms of financial autonomy, in terms of HR, making decisions with regards to people we recruit in the administration and in other places, I think we will have better handle of how to deal with some of the, not just gender-based violence, but other issues that are challenging us at the moment. So I think looking closely, more closely at greater autonomy for provinces will be a better, effective strategy in terms of development outcomes that we all as leaders and our people are wanting to see. And the implementations of the recommendation of the Permanent Parliamentary Committee on Elections is another important action that we should look at. We need to ensure that the elections are held in a safe and fair manner, so that not only it increases the chances of women getting into parliament, but it improves the chance of leaders, male and female, good leaders getting into parliament. So I think it's about time, as we are reassessing our journey, 50 years journey now, and looking at the challenges that we are facing, perhaps we should also look at traditional governance systems at the lower levels of government, at local level government, and see how those can come in and positively influence and have an impact, positive impact on some of the issues that we are faced with, some of the challenges that we are faced with. So, in concluding, I want to also, apart from those actions, also propose for us to again use the existing constitutional provision in Section 101 and 102 for the nominated seats, to see if we can give more representation of women and participation of women here on this floor of Parliament. And secondly, to introduce new enabling legislation for women's seats, as in the case of Aro and Motukweta Assembly. So in closing, I want to just share an experience in that space. In 2027, after the general elections, the Australian government, through a facility they had on empowerment of women parliamentary leaders, had a meeting in Honiara, and Honourable Kessy, Sawang and I were invited, plus Lujaya Koze. She had just lost the election, and so three of us went from PNG to Honiara. And all the other Pacific Island women were there, members of parliament, honourable members of those respective parliaments were there. And from Bougainville, we had Honourable Francisca Stemoso from the Bougainville House of there. I think there was two of them there. And At that time we had no women in parliament, and it made me feel very sad that PNG as a parliament, we had already 11 parliaments. And Bougainville, that just started out, was able to already have women using TSM, special reserve seats, to have women as elected members of parliament, apart from running the normal elections as well. And so that was a moment in time when I thought something is not right in our parliament. If we have stayed this long and we have not entertained that section 101 and 102, at least to have nominated seats, throwing out TSM, temporary special measures. What else do? We cannot go that way, continue to go that way. I am thankful that the preferential system has come in terms of elections, because I think it does give women a better chance, more chance of getting in rather than the first past the post. But seriously, on the eve of independence anniversary, that is an issue we need to address as a parliament. Thank you, Assistant Speaker.
Thank you, Governor Peter. I think this is the time me like to thank you, Pastor. Long all geta, all mama sindan lo here, all geta all pikini. Me to thank you that you come lo here, lo come witness him live. Not all geta mama in up long look him na you feel him me platok lo here. But thank you for coming in today. That was a very special session lo email mama. You are more geta all bratab lo yumi sindan lo here, all your members of parliament, all talk one them Iwara. To the Prime Minister of Papua New Guinea and to the Deputy Prime Minister, thank you for the first time you play. Come, let me debate him good through. Let me tell him talk good through. Long heavy, and all get a picking Mary, all get a mama, he will feel him inside. Long this la country, missing down lo here, me Iwara. But at the same time, we talk thank you, long lady Rachel. Thank you for choosing today to come inside long chamber. Now you come sit down one time, me plol mama, now susable you, now bubu Mary blow you inside long parliament. Long Papua New Guinea. Honourable members, I adjourn the Parliament until tomorrow at 10 o'clock.